Hi YouTube, it's Jonathan at the Piano Lesson. Surprise! Wanted to do an exercise today, kind of little puzzle. Now I brought it up before in the past. A friend of mine who passed away in March, Mark Westcott, showed it to me. And he called it scrambled eggs. And I've since done a little creative work with the exercise. So I'll show you the basic exercise, and then I'm going to just add a scale. It's initially a chord exercise. So the chord exercise is very simple. You take one note, okay, C. You play the major chord. That's the root, right? Then that's the root of the minor. So C minor. Then this becomes the third of the chord. So C is the third of A flat major. Then C is the third of A minor. Then C is the fifth of F. Then C is the fifth of F minor. And then you're back to the original chord. Or if you want it to sound a little more musical, you could do a suspension. Just a little kind of pretty little thing. Okay, so that's the basic exercise where you have a constant and you have the variable, but the relationship of the C changes from the root to the third to the fifth. Now, you could do that with scales. So you could do that, let's say, C major, okay, minor. Now, I'm going to play harmonic minor, but you could just as easily do natural minor, okay? Both of those would work, I suppose, but I prefer the harmonic minor, all right? Or you could do, I guess you could do the melodic as well, right? If you want, you know. Let's just stick with the harmonic. Then A flat major, A minor. Now, this is natural minor. Let's do harmonic minor. It's a little more practical. So that's the mode, right? Harmonic minor, A harmonic minor is this. Right, so if you start on C, right? And then the fifth, so F major. What would that be? That would be C, C mixolydian, right? And then you have the C minor. Well, and we'll do harmonic minor as well. So that's the harmonic minor scale starting on the fifth. That's yeah. That. And then you're back to the original. Now, then you can put them both together. So you have a chord and the scale, right? Minor, harmonic, okay, A flat major. And what scale is that in the right hand? That would be C Phrygian, but and then A minor. And I'm not so sure that sounds the most musical. You know, again, this is natural, right? Or I guess if you want to do the melodic, starting a mode of the melodic, how's that? You know, although that would descending would change, right? That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Then F major, so that's the mixolydian, minor, harmonic, and then major. Now you could switch hands, right? Chord in the right hand, scale in the left hand. Minor, major, Phrygian mode. And what fingers would you use here? Well, I guess you could use 5. So that's a fingering puzzle, right? Maybe this. I might do this. I might start with 4. And then you're back to the major again. Okay, or how about both hands? minor, Phrygian, A flat, or C Phrygian actually, but it's the A flat scale starting in C. Then the harmonic minor, my mistake, I haven't practiced these. Then the Mixolydian, then the minor, starting in the fifth, and that sounds better, and then major. Whoa. That's my left pinky and ring finger that are still numb. It's a little disconcerting, but I'm still optimistic it's going to get better. I'm told that when people get COVID, these things happen, and it can take 6 months to reconcile. So anyway, that's parallel, right? But what about contrary? That's kind of interesting. Right? And I'm just winging this. Like I haven't really practiced these. So, and then that's harmonic. That doesn't really sound good. It really doesn't sound. That doesn't sound quite. Let's do natural minor. Excuse me. Yeah, that interesting. So if you do natural minor, right? If I did natural minor starting on the C, it sounds like C major. So if I'm gonna challenge myself, it might as well be harmonic. But that's the contrary. That's interesting, right? Then the F major, the Mixolydian. And then the minor, harmonic minor here, E natural. Did I play E natural up here? That's it. I'm making mistakes as I go, but that's the contrary. Right, so together it would sound like. I mean, I'm challenging myself right now. I don't do this all the time, so it keeps things fresh, and then you're back to the major, right? Now, originally the exercise, I'll just review it, was chords in both hands. And you would do this. You would go, well, so several ways to do it, but you go. And a lot of it was rotation. It was like an arm rotation. You could do it in different ways, but the point of this exercise was really to kind of get the arm involved. Minor. Then but you have this symmetry in both hands. You have this symmetry in both hands. That's the nice thing about contrary motion. There's more dissonance, right? Because you're not playing the same notes in both hands. But the fingering's essentially the same. Although in this exercise, not so much. It can be, it can be more similar, but the general mechanics, are similar. I personally prefer and recommend that when people are learning scales, that they learn in contrary motion first, and then in parallel motion. The parallel motion will kind of play itself if you do the contrary motion. So I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but I think it's better. Now, going back to the exercise we're talking about, I love my tetrachords. So you can do this as a tetrachord exercise, right? You can do 2 major tetrachords, C major and G major, right? Now the minor scale, the harmonic minor, right? You have minor here and you have the harmonic tetrachord here, right? But we have the disjunct fourths, right? We have our fourths there. Then the A flat. Those are both similar, right? This is Phrygian and that's Phrygian. Then the harmonic minor. That is the third mode of the A harmonic minor scale. I think there's no point in doing natural minor because that's just like major. So there's really no point in doing that. I guess if you want to do the melodic minor, that could be interesting. I think that's right. That's the third mode of the A melodic minor scale. Isn't that odd? Because you're hearing in different ways. I mean, this is the A melodic minor scale. Ascending and then descending, right? It's right. The 6th and 7th revert back down. You have the minor tetrachord and then the major going up. Remember, the bottom tetrachord is a constant in terms of the 3 minor scales. The upper tetrachord is the variable. So this is natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor. Right? The right hand changes from this Phrygian to this harmonic to this major, but this is the same always. Now, if you do a mode of it, I mean, how many people really practice these as modes? I mean, not many, but if you really want to get good, you got to challenge yourself. So if I play, that's effectively the first tetrachord of the mode. And what is that? Well, that is actually no longer a perfect fourth. That's an augmented fourth. That's a tritone. Isn't that interesting? That's for the melodic minor, right? If it was just harmonic minor, it would be this. Right? And melodic and natural, of course, is this. There's no point in doing that. So I think that's or even just doing both hands, major, minor, Phrygian, and harmonic. And notice the fingering, I'm not even using the thumb, right? I'm just keeping the thumb under the hand right now. But that's a pretty interesting one. The 4 tetrachords, major, minor, Phrygian, and harmonic. And then we're back to the major. And then there's the augmented. And then you could go up. Minor. That's kind of fun. Phrygian, harmonic, and then the augmented, and then you're back to the major. And that's what I just kind of invented. And you could just do triads. So minor, and then the Phrygian. Well, I would probably use this, and then the if you're doing A minor, you're kind of stuck with that, right? That would be the, or potentially. No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. So you could do triads, and then. And maybe here, Right? That would be the harmonic minor, right? F major, F minor. That's natural minor. This is harmonic minor, and then back to the beginning. So you could simplify it. You could just make it, triads like that, and that would be easy enough to do. So I don't know. I'll often, wake up at 5, 6 in the morning, and my head will be kind of thinking about these things. I personally find it fun and kind of calming to just think about these little puzzles and, keep your mind sharp. You could also do thirds, right? And then minor and harmonic minor. Gotta again use your ear to find out what sounds good. I'll do major. Oh, that was wrong. D flat. So that's just thirds. It's the major scale, starting on the third, and then playing thirds. Here's thirds starting on the root. Now starting on the third. Now putting the chord together in first inversion. I mean, that's starting to get into composition almost, right? For people who are interested in writing songs, okay? It's kind of a good way to get the juices going, to expand your ear. It's very easy to get jaded, and a little bit bored, because you're always practicing the same scale or the same chord on the same note, and we need to invent ways to break out of our usual patterns. To me, that's what improvisation is about. That's what jazz is about. You're always kind of looking at things anew, looking at things fresh, and even if you don't necessarily improvise, right, you take that attitude when you play any piece of music, right? When you play Mozart, hopefully, I will say, I don't know why I've been thinking about my friend Mark Westcott a lot lately, but I will tell you that no one could play Mozart like he could. It was the most inventive Mozart I've ever heard in my life. And I remember watching a YouTube video with Glenn Gould, and he was talking about Mozart being interviewed, and he was saying the most awful things about Mozart. He was saying, Mozart didn't die soon enough. And of course the interviewer was shocked, and he was saying, because, so look, Mozart was extremely prolific. Any composer that's prolific is going to write things that aren't always great, okay? They're good, but they're not always great. And of course, one of the traps that people fall into in music, and particularly in Mozart, is that there are a lot of patterns, and how do you get a piece of music to sound musical when it has a lot of seeming repetition and is seemingly mechanical and full of patterns? And of course, someone like Glenn Gould, who's extremely brilliant, and to him, I'm sure he just, could understand, the ins and outs and the patterns and see these things coming from, a mile away. And, so kind of, in a sense, it bored him. But I would say, that's when that's when the real challenge comes. And you say to yourself, okay, fine, there's a lot of patterns. There's a lot of Alberti bass. Right? What do you do with that to make it sound musical and fresh and creative? Well, there's more than one way to play an Alberti bass. I'll just give a simple example, for instance. All right, so typical Alberti bass, right? 1 4 5 1. All right, in Mozart. And again, this is one of the things that Mark would kind of talk about. But there was the sonata in C major. Was it right? That little one, which I never really learned to play. But typically you hear this kind of clatter. This kind of clatter going on in the left hand. And there's more creative, more deft ways to play. So, for instance, bringing out the lower note, instead of doing, you could do, I mean, you could take that liberty and extend that note so you have effectively two voices. You have da-dee-da-dum in the bass, and then up here you have the rhythmic aspect. So there's, I kind of divide notes into two groups. There's the heard notes and the felt notes. And of course, every note that's felt is heard, and every note that's heard is felt. But within this clatter of notes, right, that's meant to imply, right, two musicians playing at once. And there's a melodic aspect, da-dee-dee-dee, and there's a rhythmic aspect, ding, 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 ding. And keeping in mind also, when you have a repeated note, right, that note's going to sound louder simply by virtue of the fact that it's repeated. And the first note is going to sound loud simply by virtue of the fact that it's the first note. So because you have silence preceding it, right? So you have to kind of strategically, psychologically think about these things when you start the piece. I wouldn't, necessarily, there's always an exception, right? But I wouldn't necessarily start loud or start accented, because it's going to seem accented even though you might not play it in an accented way. And likewise, if you have a repeated note, it's better just to kind of, if you're going to play a lot of the same note, well, you're going to end up hearing a lot of it. So no point in banging it out, okay? But playing the light note short and soft, and short staccato, disconnected maybe, and then the bottom note. Now you could reverse it, I guess. You can go, right, you can make the lower note short and accented, let's say. If the lower note's short, I probably would be more inclined to accent it. Again, why? Because if it's a short note, it's going to sound softer because there's less of it to hear. So not a bad idea to accent it. Again, one of the things that I kind of picked up from Mark over the years, if you have dotted rhythms, teen, ta-tum, 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 the second note, the shorter note, like a dotted eighth note beam to a 16th note, beam, ta-dum, 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 always kind of going over the bar line, ta-dum, 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 as opposed to ta, 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 loud, soft, loud. It's soft, loud, soft, loud, soft. Now, it's not loud, soft really, okay? I'm just giving you the example, exaggerating for descriptive purposes, right? And also practicing a left-hand part with the right hand, just to get it in your ear in a different way, and practicing it, practicing both hands. Again, just to kind of get it into your system in a different manner, so that when you actually go to perform it, it isn't as fragile, it isn't as brittle. This is one of the big problems when people go to perform music, is that their practice almost works against them, because it's kind of like a bell curve. At a certain point, if you practice too much the same way, the music's going to start to sound overly mechanical, but also you're overly invested. Here's it's a better word. You're overly invested in one interpretation. Okay, so when you get on stage and the adrenaline rush hits, and as it usually happens, right? I mean, anything can happen on a performance. You don't really have a plan B or a plan C, right? You'll just have plan A, plan A, plan A, and that's where things fall apart, okay? You need to have some flexibility so that, you can experience the piece in a more holographic way. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. More of a three-dimensional way. That's one of my main criticisms of when I hear recordings and classical music and people playing, is that I feel like the performance is just very one-dimensional. And look, music is hard to play, okay? I mean, it's the natural tendency to take something that's really hard and just, grit your teeth. Some people really have that in them, and tenacity, and they just sit there and they practice it until they've got calluses on their butt, which I did for a while. But it doesn't really make for the best performances. You end up sounding, again, just stilted, kind of stilted and stiff. So that's where the jazz aspect comes in. That's where the open-mindedness comes in, and that takes more time, frankly. I was never very good at that, in a sense. I always liked to take a piece of music and really tear it apart. So maybe I would learn like 10 pieces and someone else would learn like 50 pieces, right? But I always felt like I enjoyed it more. I had a better mastery. In fact, there's still some pieces in my head that I played as a young man that I'm thinking now, boy, I could really play that piece. I really know how it would go, but I'm not going to do it because it's I'm too lazy to actually sit down. One of those pieces is, if you've ever heard Albéniz, Itzhak Albéniz, the Iberia. Was it searching for notes now. Help me out here. That's the beginning of it. It's been a while since I played that. Another piece I really enjoyed playing. There's a Chopin ballade in A flat major. I don't remember it anyway. Dee da da da. See. Dee da 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 da. Dee da 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 da. Boy, I have a whole nother take on that now that I never used to have. And just even playing it now, actually, you think about this sound, this kind of sound. It's very Asian, actually. It's a very Asian kind of cast to it. Well, enough of my ramblings. Used to be an old radio show in New York called Rambling with Gambling, which my father used to listen to on AM radio. Okay, guys, gotta go. Nice to share some time with you and stay in touch. And no one ever asked me any questions, but hey, I'm open. Okay, talk to you later. This is Jonathan at the Piano Lesson signing off. And if you want to visit my website, you can visit thepianolesson.com.